Hello, my name is Robert Lawrence from G.H.E.T.O Ministries. G.H.E.T.O standing for God's holy, eternal, totally tenacious objective. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to word this, but you've got to understand. You've got to understand what love is, and love is not really fully going to be understood according to you're not really going to understand God's love. The only way you can really understand love of any kind is that you first have to experience it. Now, I'm sure you've had things in your life that have caused you to question what love is according to the things that you've gone through. But I want you to understand that if it causes you hurt, it's not love. But if you've had experienced things in your life to, let's say, make you feel better, make you feel better about yourself. For example, before I met this wonderful woman named Margaret Ahmad, I did not know what it meant to be. I did not know what falling in love meant. Not until I had met her. Because everything that I've ever experienced, a wife that cheated on me for 6 years, for one, a wife that always talked down to you and treated you like you were nothing. Imagine going through that for 11 years of marriage, thinking in your mind that this is the best love has to offer. I can assure you that there is a higher version of love. There's a higher understanding of love. Now, I have yet to understand fully what love is. I have yet to understand fully how to live as if I've been loved. But I want to give a couple scenarios. If somebody were to ask you what is love, you would describe feelings. You would describe things that have actually happened. You wouldn't actually describe what love really is, because love cannot be described. Love itself is beyond explanation of what love really is. You can't experience, or rather, let's say, You can only understand love as much as it's received, as much as it's given. So, let's give a scenario. You grow up and you have a father who is the only one in the household working. And he comes home to grab his fishing equipment and to grab his hunting equipment to leave the house right after he comes home. And let's say that in that while you're in that situation, there is very little food in the home. There is barely anything you can do. Now let's throw into that situation that you're too young to be able to have a job. So that puts you under the age of 14 or 15. Now let's say that your cupboards are always bare and there's hardly ever any food in the house. Would you describe that as love? Or would you describe that as neglect and abandonment? See, according to the law, neglect and abandonment is what is described as never being home, not taking care of your kids. When your kids are hungry and you don't have food in your house, the law would see that as neglect. But I can tell you right now to think about it and look at it this way. Your father goes out to work to make money to buy the things you need. And his income is so low that in order to have the bills paid and to have a roof over your head, you have to use every ounce of money that you're given to supply all your needs. Now, when he comes home and he gets paid, all the bills are, let's say all the bills get paid and all the rent is paid and everything is taken care of so that you can have a home, a roof over your head. And when he comes home to go out to hunt and to fish, it's because the rest of his income from work is all taken out by his bills. So now he's got to make sure that his family's fed, so he's got to go out and hunt. That in itself is taking care of his family. Now let's throw a different scenario. It's kind of the same scenario, but it's one more closer to how I grew up. Your father's the only one working. only takes a job that pays minimum wage because he believes that anything higher than minimum wage goes into a different tax bracket, so more money are taken out of your taxes, and more money is taken out of your pay. And so he doesn't care too much about taking care of his getting a job that pays enough to be able to take care of his family. On top of that, the trailer that I grew up in for the first 7 to 8 years of my life had no electricity, no running water, and no heat. Now, it did have a wood burning stove, so it did have that kind of heat, but it did not have enough. It did not have the heat that would heat the entire trailer. A wood burning stove only heats one room because this trailer is long, flat, and heat rises. So in the one room that the wood burning stove is in, only heats one room. So you grow up really cold. Now, with the fact that he's only taking a job that pays minimum wage, the bills are barely paid. Some things just are not taken care of at all. And he goes out and buys ammunition for his guns, he buys lures and stuff for his fishing equipment. And some of the bills get turned off, some of the utilities get turned off. Now, on the trailer, there was no electricity, no running water, no heat. So, the money that my father did make, or let's say anybody's father, the money that my father did make went strictly to guns and ammunition, fishing lures, rods, and everything else. Now, if you've ever priced any of those are close to a couple $100. So when you get down to it and you boil everything down and you boil onto it, the same money that could be used to pay bills is being paid into guns, ammunition, lures, rods and reels, so the bills aren't getting paid. But they're there to try to feed your family. But the guns and ammunition and everything, that's there to build to take care of your family. But let's say there's rats and mice in the place, and all sorts of other rodents can come into the place. So you could have snakes, you could have raccoons, you could have skunks on top of the mice and the rats and everything else. So all the food that you do have in the house is unsuitable to eat. Gets chewed in, the boxes get chewed into, so the rats and the mice and everything else, they get fed, but they also poop and everything else in the food, and it makes it unsuitable to eat. And when you do hunt for your food, you're not guaranteed to always get what you hunt for. So, is that love? By law, also, that would be considered neglect. And that would be more accurate to be what neglect really is. However, If it's not reported, it's unknown. Is that love? You can look at it as it's an attempt to take care of your family. But what good is it taking care of your family is if the same amount of money you have is also spent on more leisurely things than it is spent on things to excuse me, that it is spent more on things that are to have leisurely activities. So when one thing is paid for, you lose another. When the one thing is bought, you don't have time, you don't have the money to buy another. If your income is so low and you have to choose between feeding your kids or paying your bills, that could be viewed as neglect. But it's really just all the choices or whatever choice you make. So you have to question that as if that is really love. Now let's give you another scenario. Your father teaches you how to hunt for your own food, teaches you how to survive by buying or by shooting food and hunting for it and learning how to track it. So he's teaching a good skill that is needed. And that's good to learn that. Let's take it into a different scenario that you're only learning how to hunt and fish because it's the only way you can be fed. Now let's take into another scenario where your father spanks you, grounds you, and things like that. Is that love? I would say yes, it's love because it's teaching your child, don't do this because it will hurt you. But that's better to determine whether if not he loves you or not if he also teaches you why you're being disciplined. Because if you're just being disciplined and you have no reason why, then he's really basically just disciplining you out of anger. And let's go to the last scenario, which is kind of the same thing, but let's say if you try to speak on your behalf by defending yourself for the reasons and why you've chosen to do certain things, and you get backhanded across the face because you're trying to you get backhanded across the face because you're simply trying to defend yourself, and the father says that you're back-talking him. And let's say if you continue trying to defend yourself, and next thing you know, you get in a wrestling match with your father, then he is disciplining you out of anger. He's not disciplining you out of love. Or, I don't know if I should say love, but he is disciplining you out of anger, and he's not disciplining you. I guess love would be the right way to say it. There is no other way to say it. So he's disciplining you out of anger instead of out of love. So let's say you get in a wrestling match and you get flipped over, you get slammed on your head. There's times where you may get kicked down the stairs. You might get thrown around like a rag doll. You might get punched in your face so hard that your lip busts open, your gum cracks, and your mouth starts bleeding. And question yourself, is that love? So I'm going to leave you with those questions. Those are scenarios that would demonstrate the act of love. But think again to yourself, can you actually describe what love really is? Or can you describe situations and scenarios that demonstrate love? So see if you can do that. And my name is Robert Lawrence from G.H.E.T.O Ministries. If you wish to subscribe, go ahead and subscribe. This is me signing off. God bless you and have a wonderful day.